right now. You don't have to start from this report. Again, like I said, you can start from a brand new workbook. Either way is fine. The nice thing about this report, and especially for us, is we have defined some styling that represent certain ideas. So we have a styling in our rows for calculated values. So if you ever see something just in black, that means it's a formula, a calculated value. We have, for our headers, we have some cell styles. Data entry, we always apply, if the user is required to put some type of input, we use the data entry one. The data value styling is blue. You don't have to use ours. You can come up with your own, but it's a good practice that you do have a styling for this type of data. And what this does is it helps your company better understand your reports, just from a styling point of view, so that they know, it's a standard. And then when they go in, they're like, oh, okay, this column, this is coming from Sage. This is a calculated value. I need to put some values in here to help complete my report and so forth. If you keep changing the styling and everything, after a while it becomes harder and harder for the users to understand your reporting. As long as you have one standard that you keep in place, it just helps your end users read it a lot easier.
Yeah.
And some companies go really in depth on what formatting means what, and you always apply that formatting.
Yeah.
Other companies care less. So we're going to do the trial balance. And so the first part of the standard reporting is the header. So we'll start with that. And basically it's the report header, trial balance. And then we're going to include our first function. We want to return the company name of this data folder. And to do that, we're going to use an Office Connector function. Either you call it the find function or the TS find. Either one is appropriate. And we'll use the find wizard. And to find the company name, we go to the company information table. Basically, this table is, if you go into Sage, it's file, I forget whatever. It shows your company name, the address. If you use both the cash accrual or just cash, and the email and stuff. But right here, we're just going to get the company name. I'll click next. There's only one row of data in this function, so we don't need to apply any conditions. And then I'm going to click finish. So notice here it returned Timberline Construction, and that's the name of this sample data. The next function, we want to return the current path to our data folder. So normally, before, you would have to hand type this function, and you could. I'm going to start TS data folder. You'll notice with 2010 and higher, you'll see the autocomplete. 2007, the functions don't autocomplete. Wasn't part of that. Or you can use the function wizard. It's a function selector. I'm going to click that, and then I'm going to click on the TS data folder. And basically over here is a description of the folder, the syntax, remarks, any related links. But this one's pretty easy. It's going to return either the folder. Ooh, what did it do on me? Yeah, it's going to either return the folder that resides in, or if I type in true, the complete path to that data folder. So I'm going to click OK. And so now you'll see that the data folder is C data, construction sample data. Okay, so that is almost all of the header information. The one thing that we don't have just yet is the column captions, and we're going to add that as we go. The reason being is the query wizard is going to produce a column caption for us if we decide to let it. There's an option where we don't have to, but in this case we're going to. And so that information in this report that we wanted to produce is going to come from the geo account master table. It's going to include the account name, the account title, and the account type. So we do that using the query wizard. So I'm going to go ahead and click that. Again, it's going to ask us what table we want to use. Now, if you don't know what table you need the information or you're not entirely sure, you can actually preview the data before you start before you create a query and then notice that it's not coming from the right data source. So you can click preview. Preview will show you current data that's in it. So that's there. You can also click the help button, and this will take you online help for the query wizard. I'm going to go ahead and click next. So the next step in this wizard is the fields that we wanted to select. And the fields, again, was the account number. And I'm just going to make note of this account. This account number has a gold key next to it. If you're familiar with databases, the gold key represents that it's a member of the primary key. What a primary key is one or more fields in your table when with the values, those unique values that uniquely identify that record. So we have our file, the GeoCount table, and in it we're going to have, turn my preview off. We have records, or rows, but these are one row is a record, and then you have your individual fields like the account number, the account title, the account type. So it's one row of fields. The primary key helps uniquely identify that row. In this case, it's an account number. So this account number here you're seeing 10-1001, you won't see it on any other row. Basically because the database won't allow a duplicate primary key. We'll get to hopefully another table that has actually, so you might see another table that has two fields that have gold question marks. You might see one that has 6. All of those fields with their values combined are unique, and you won't see them repeating on any other row. That is the primary key. And a primary key helps you identify record relationships between one table and another as well. I think that's basically all you need to know so far on the primary key. So I'm going to select the account title, the account type. I'm going to click next. Doing a trial balance, so I don't think we go too much into the conditions. We're not going to apply any conditions to this one. So I'm going to click next. And then the last window, or a step in the wizard, you'll see here, is just some things about our query wizard that's going to the query table it's going to produce. So you have some options. You can name the outcoming table anything you want. Please, it has a default name. The default name is pretty basic. It appends the word QRY to the table name. QRY just stands for query. Really, there's no need to change it. Data options, you can insert the table that so that it can be refreshed every time with live data, and typically that's what you're going to do. Or it's a one-time insert. It'll insert as static data. So once it's there, it's just static. It's no longer linked to Sage or anything like that, and it can't be refreshed. And then we have the ability to exclude duplicate rows. So in this case, it doesn't make any sense to check that, but let's say you have a table with, if I just selected account type, we have multiple accounts in here with the same account type. And I just selected account type, and then I said select distinct. What it'll give me is a list of those account types only one time. So you'll only see like expense, cost, other income, so forth, only listed one time. If I don't use that distinct button, you might see other or expense listed 60 times, 80 times, depending on how many expense accounts you got. So it helps you create a distinct list of values. We like to use that sometimes when for on the admin sheet where the user they like to have the user to be able to select a list of job numbers or account numbers or something like that as their parameter. That's what we typically use it for. And then the next section is layout. Like I said, I wanted to start including, I'm going to include my field names, which is part of the header information. But if you didn't want to include them, we just uncheck here. The next one, you can check, but I don't recommend it. And what it is, it's maintain column widths to fit data. So that means every time it refreshes, it will automatically adjust the column width so that all the data fits within the cell. Whereas if the number is too big, for example, it'll just return pounds symbols. Whereas if you had this check, it'll adjust the column width so that it wouldn't be pound, it would be readable content. The reason I say I don't like checking this is because it can do some weird things. Like if one column didn't return any data, they were all blank values, it scrunches that column up to like 3 pixels, 4 pixels. Really, you just can't see it. So it's so small, it's unreadable. So I normally don't check it. And then the last one, move existing columns to make room for the query. Go ahead and leave that checked. Otherwise, if you had some data in an adjacent cell, it can get overwritten accidentally when you click finish here. Okay. I'm going to click finish. And now we have our driving query. So we have, oh, I forgot to, yep, I forgot something. So what I forgot to include was the, what 2 fields did we need? The current period activity, and I think the current period activity, yeah, skipped here. I apologize. Okay, so let's say you want to edit a query. I'll make it seamless here. I already have a query in place, but I want to edit it. You can click the query editor. It is the same thing as the query wizard. So I really forgot to include current balance and current period activity. Part is my trial balance. So from here, I'm not going to change anything else. I'm just adding two fields and click Finish. And then now we have these two fields. So actually, this report will have only one adjacent formula, and that will be beginning balance. So we can put it where we want in the query. So once we produce the query, it's an object in Excel, and you'll be able to see that in the named box here. Remember, we called it Query Geo Account. I'm going to go ahead and click that. So here's the driving query of this report. And really quickly, you can place formulas to the right of it. So I could put one here. I'll put in current balance minus current period activity, and we'll call this beginning balance. Make that certain column width. And then I can continue on, perhaps scroll another formula. I'm just going to try to make up something here. So perhaps actually that results in nothing that we care about, but anyways. The point is, I can keep going across with adjacent formulas. The rule with query tables is once I insert a blank line here, there's no formula. This adjacent formula will not grow and shrink with this query. It's no longer adjacent to the query. But as long as I keep having formulas in each column, those formulas will grow and shrink with the query as it goes. Now you can also insert a row or a column into the middle of the query itself, and you'll be all right. The formula would grow and shrink appropriately with the driving query. You cannot, however, put it here adjacent to the left. That won't work correctly. So it's either in the middle or to the left with no blank columns. Now let's say I wanted a blank column just for readability or to emphasize, just to show something because I can't say that other word. You could put in a formula that basically returns nothing, so like equals double quote, and I'll fill down, and that will appropriately work as well because we still keep that rule of the formula. Really quick, I did a formula here. If you hover over the lower right-hand corner, you'll get this crosshairs. You double-click that, and it will fill your formula down for you. There is a trick for making it to the left, and basically, I can show you really quick. Might as well. Yeah, if you ever have to, I'll show you the trick. If you right-click in the query, you'll get a menu that you normally don't see at the bottom. Data range properties, parameters, may or may not be grayed out, and refresh. Click data range properties. Normally we don't go over that, but one is to include row numbers. So I'm going to click that. And then go ahead and refresh. Click here. So now it's created the column right to the left here with a bunch of row numbers. What you can do is insert, or like I said, you can insert in a query, because this is now considered part of the query. you can put in your formula, whatever it may be, and again fill down, and then just hide column A. Just hide it. Yeah, that's a way of doing it. Or just something that, so we're technically I'm not to the left, it just appears I'm to the left, but I'm inside the middle of the query. Let's say A didn't exist, there was no columns or row numbers, and this wasn't adjacent. The next time I refresh this report, and for some reason the number of expense accounts or number of accounts increased by 5, this formula doesn't fill down with it. Or let's say it got deleted. Now this will continue to go down. In fact, it didn't properly do what you would see. Let me see if I can do it that way. That's what you would see. It would completely break on you.
Okay.
So if it's in the, like I said, it needs to be in the middle or to the left. And your formulas, you can stack formulas going across, but once you have a blank column with no formulas in it, then it starts breaking again. Okay. So, and then the last part, and I might as well, is the report footer. Now with the footers, basically they seem pretty easy, so I'm going to do total. I'm going to use the auto sum function here so that it pulls in the data. And for some reason I'm out of balance. It's always one count. I don't know why. So we're below the query. Now if the number of rows increase or decrease, the total row will get pushed up and down. Now I'm going to change this to subtotal. So subtotal, when used, only subtotal or only sums up the amounts of visible rows, and it will exclude any formula that's subtotal that has a subtotal function in it. So if there was a subtotal function in here, and this was included in my range, it just skips over it. Whereas subtotal, you can do sum, average, min, count, and that's what that 9 represents. Let's see if I think, yeah. So I use 9, but you have all of these little options